I've been playing a ton of Marvel Snap on stream recently at twitch.tv/PerryThePig. I wanted to take just a moment here on YouTube to talk about why I like this game so much, why it stands out from other deck building games that I played in the past, namely Magic the Gathering for the past 20 years on and off, and why I like it so much. So diving into it, the short answer is this. The game Marvel Snap is just short enough, but it's also just long enough. Let me explain. Being a bite-sized short game means that I can actually play it during the day as a mobile game, which is something that I've never done before. I think this is the first time that I've ever actually played a mobile game on my phone instead of just using an emulator or using a Steam client on my PC. There's a ton of variance built into Marvel Snap, like RNG and whatnot. Getting an unwinnable matchup or terrible random locations with the location system they have, it's fine. You haven't invested 20, 30, 40 minutes, 1 hour looking at you, League of Legends, into the outcome of this match. You can screw around in game if you get messed up. If something bad happens, you can just meme it up and have a good time, or you can just retreat after a couple seconds, and it's really no loss to your psychological state, doesn't raise your blood pressure, doesn't make you feel like you've invested a bunch of time and lost all that time, or you've been trapped in a match or something like that. But when I say that the game is just long enough, I mean the number of turns. So it only has 6 turns, and both players are basically playing at the same time. Sometimes it's 7 turns, but let's call it 6 for right now. Between the cards in your hand, the locations where you play those cards, the sequencing of not only the cards, but also the snapping mechanic where you double the ante and try to get more cubes from your opponent, which is kind of like ranking up the ladder system, you have just enough player agency that it feels like you always could have done something better. Maybe you couldn't have done something better, but you feel great playing the game with the number of decisions that you make in that time frame. So the second part of why I like Marvel Snap is it's just small enough, but it's also just big enough. The game is small, so you only have 12 cards in your deck, and you see about 75% of your deck during any game. If you want to build around a combo, you're probably going to draw that combo. If you want to change one card in your deck, you're going to feel that change even after just 1 or 2 or 3 games. You'll feel the outcome of that decision making in the deck building. So, on the other hand, I said the game's like, it's just small enough and just big enough. I think that deck building is just big enough in Marvel Snap. So, because your deck is singleton, even the relatively tiny 200, I think there's 229 at last count, the relatively tiny 200-ish cards that exist in Marvel Snap right now feels like a lot of deck building decisions to make because it's singleton. Comparing this to something like Magic the Gathering, it's a joke. So there's 200-ish cards in Marvel Snap, and there's 20,000? I'm getting mixed numbers when I Google this. It looks like north of 20,000 unique cards exist in Magic the Gathering. Now, there's a lot of points to make about that comparison. Sure, like playability, formats, things like that. But there's one thing that really stands out to me. In Magic, there are so many cards that are just bad. They're draft chaff. They're meant to help round out a limited drafting experience, and they're not things that are supposed to be played or could even competitively be played in a constructed format. But in Marvel Snap, there's so few bad cards. Almost no bad cards if you squint your eyes. And those competitive cards come very quickly into your collection. The decks that you get after about a week of playing, those cards might not seem sexy to you, but they still continue to see play in the most competitive decks out there. Things like Cosmo, Enchantress, Killmonger, Jessica Jones, Storm. You get those cards very, very early on while you're building your collection in Marvel Snap. More importantly, you get those tools early on. The onboarding to Marvel Snap, both you collecting the cards, the matchmaking, the bots at the very beginning, and then being paired against very low-level players like yourselves with the same size collections as you. The tutorial, how the game brings you on board and makes you feel good. It's a mobile game. It's got some good psychological stuff going on as well, but you feel like you know what's going on. There's no video. There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be videos out there telling you how do you play Marvel Snap. You know how you play Marvel Snap? You log into the client for 1 minute. The game is so simple to understand. It's the cards and it's the areas and it's the like bite-sized decision making over time in the games. That's what makes the game complicated. But understanding what's going on, it's pretty simple and it's really, really appealing. So that's why I like Marvel Snap. Hopefully you enjoy it as well. If you haven't tried it out, I recommend it. It's a mobile game. It's pay to win. I kind of like the pay to win model of it. There's plenty of complaints to have about the game of how to get Pool 4 and Pool 5 cards, but I'm happy to be playing the game, not only for dailies, but also just when there's no dailies and there's no tasks to be done. I'm just playing the game because I'm having a good time. So hopefully you are too. I'll see you next time.